Hey guys, welcome back to Basic Blues. This is part 3, so if you haven't seen the last 2 videos, I suggest you go check them out. I'll link them up here. So, quick disclaimer before we start, I'm not an expert on this next topic by any means. I've tried getting to grips with this style several times over the years, but I've only really had any success over the last few, so still have a lot to learn and plenty of room for improvement, but I feel like the Basic Blues series would be severely lacking if I didn't say at least a few words on slide guitar. There's already a ton of great slide guitar videos here on YouTube, so I'm not going to try and reinvent the wheel or anything. I just wanted to share with you some of the better tips that really helped me get off the ground playing slide. Then at the end I'll link you to a playlist I've put together with some of what I consider to be the best slide guitar videos on YouTube for those who want to learn more. Okay, so how does it work? It's very simple. Instead of fretting the notes with your fingers, you use an object. This can be anything: a knife, screwdriver, a metal bar, glass bottle. Most often though, a guitar slide is tubular in shape and sits over the finger. The first thing to note is that the slide object, whatever it is, replaces the fret, so you don't need to push down on the string very hard at all. Be firm enough that you don't get any string buzz, but don't let the string make contact with the fret below. If your string action is very low, this might be a problem, but I'll come back to that later. The second thing to note is that when you fret a string using your finger, you're actually depressing the string just behind the fret wire. This pulls the string down onto the edge of the fret wire, and that's what determines the pitch of the note. So if you're holding the guitar slide in the place you'd be putting your fingers, it's actually going to be flat. So what you need to do is hold the slide directly over the fret wire, in the exact horizontal position where the string would be making contact with the fret. Tom Feldman has an excellent beginner lesson where he covers how to get a decent tone from the slide and goes through some very basic exercises to get you started. You can click that up here. One of the first things you'll probably notice when you start to play slide is that you can't hold the neck in the same way that you normally would, because you need to hold the slide flat against the strings. Use your thumb to hold onto the back of the neck this way and steady your fingers. Remember, you don't need to be pressing down too hard with the slide. When you slide up or down, keep your thumb in position and move your fingers around it. So another thing to consider is which finger you want to have the slide on. You'll usually want a finger or two or more to muffle any overtones coming through from the strings on this side. Depending on the song, you may need to use chords, so it might be better to use it on your pinky finger. If you don't need to use chords, or you're only doing 1 and 2 finger licks though, I find the ring finger to be the best option, giving you best overall control and still allowing you to mute the strings behind the slide. Really, I'd encourage you to experiment for yourself. Try out each finger and see which works best for you in different situations and with different guitars. In the last video I talked about fingerstyle, and whilst not exactly the same, slide guitar requires a very similar approach, so if you've been practicing those fingerstyle riffs, this shouldn't be too hard for you. The biggest tip is that you only want to let the strings that you're playing ring out. So if you place your palm on the bridge and your fingers on the strings that aren't being played, using your thumb and index finger, you can pick the strings that you are playing. Jody Worrell explains this in great detail and demonstrates some pretty good picking and fretting hand techniques in his video here. Alright, so that's the absolute bare bones of playing slide. It's a very nuanced and subtle style, so there is a lot more to it. But all the videos I've linked so far I've put into a playlist with even more videos, and there are lots of great tips from some really experienced musicians in there, so I'd suggest watching them all and soaking all that knowledge up. So before I end the video, I just want to talk about some of the things that I've learned trying to play slide over the years. When I first started long ago, I used a bottleneck slide and my old Squire Strat. I had no idea about left or right hand techniques and it sounded terrible. After some time the slide got broken and I didn't bother again for a while. And that's an important thing to note about the material of the slide you're using actually. Glass slides are great, but if you're not careful they will break and nobody likes to deal with broken glass, so keep that in mind. Anyway, fast forward a few more years and I wanted to learn slide again, so I got myself this brass slide by Dunlop. It's a 231, I don't know what the number refers to, maybe the diameter. And I also get a metal riser to go on the Strat to raise the strings, raise the action of the strings up. Still no real clue about left or right hand technique. Most of what I played sounded a little better now, but still pretty bad. Then a couple of years ago I really started getting into the blues, like old blues, not just the blues rock that I'd been into before. And the first two slide guitarists I tried to learn were Charlie Patton and Muddy Waters. So I managed to find some tabs and videos here on YouTube, but the problem I had now was, even though this raised action made it super easy to play the slide licks, most of the frets, the low ones especially, were unplayable with my fingers because of the height of the nut. Besides that, and this is what I was talking about in one of my cigar box videos, the excessive height of the strings puts the intonation way out. So the lower frets are unplayable and the higher frets are sharp. Great for pure slide, but not much else. So remember that when you set your action, if you want to raise it up. Go too far and that's what happens. Then one day I was at my parents' and I had the slide with me for some reason. And I remembered my dad had an old nylon string Spanish guitar knocking about somewhere. The first guitar I learned to play on actually. So I dug that out to see how it would sound with the slide and it just blew my mind. Going from this janky Squire setup, using a capo to offset the action, sounding pretty bad, to not having any real problems whatsoever with this guitar. So my dad said I could hang on to it as long as I needed it, and I've been using it ever since. I'm not sure what it is that makes it so easy to play slide on this guitar. The action isn't particularly high or anything, but it sounds great. Maybe I just needed the other setup, kind of like training wheels, before I could make a half decent sound with this, I don't know. The very last thing I want to talk about is making your own glass bottleneck slides. So sounds like a great idea. Lots of videos on YouTube show you how, so let's give it a go. A lot of videos go with this idea of creating a weak point and then rapidly cooling and heating the glass until it breaks along the weak point. So I thought I'd try this. I scored a line on my bottle, got the ice and the boiling water together, dunked and poured and so on. I tried a few variations on this idea, but each time, instead of getting a nice clean cut like in the videos, they just shattered and I was left with these evil looking things. So after 3 failed attempts, I gave up. Then for Christmas, my girlfriend got me a Dremel tool with glass engraver attachments, and I thought, So using that, I set to work scoring a line on a fresh bottle, then just kept going until I'd gone right through the glass all the way around. Rubbed the sharp end down on some sandpaper and it came out fine. Took some time cutting, but it was definitely worth it. So if you want to make your own slide, cutting tool is the way to go. Alright, if you're still here, thanks for watching. Go check out that playlist if you want to learn a lot more about playing slide, and I'll see you later.